Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is for Manatee Appreciation Day. The history of how Manatee Appreciation Day began was a little confusing. It seems that the state of Florida began Manatee Awareness Month in November 2005. But we also have this special day set aside every year on the last Wednesday of March. It's possible the day was declared by the Save the Manatee Club, which began in 1981 in Florida. Manatees are 3 of the 4 living species in the order Sirenia. The 4th is the Eastern Hemisphere's dugong. The Sirenia are thought to have evolved from 4-legged land mammals more than 60 million years ago, with the closest living relatives being the Proboscidea, or elephants, and the Hydrocodea, Hyraxis. These 3 species, elephants, Hyraxis, and manatees, look nothing alike. And although they are not related to cows, manatees are known as sea cows due to the fact that they graze the sea floors for vegetation. Manatees do not share a common ancestor with other marine mammals like whales, dolphins, or seals. And as said before, they're actually more closely related to elephants and evolved from land animals. The Manatee Taxonomy reads as follows. They belong in the kingdom Animalia, the phylum Chordata, the class Mammalia, the order Sirenia, the family Trichachidae, the genus Trichicus, and I could be saying those last 2 incorrectly. Manatees are often gray to brownish in color. Their bodies have thick, wrinkled skin, often with coarse hair or whiskers. The average manatee weighs about 1,000 pounds and are about 9 feet to 10 feet in length and may grow up to 15 feet. A manatee's lungs are 2/3 the length of its body, and the females tend to be larger and heavier. At birth, baby manatees weigh about 66 pounds each. The manatee has a large, flexible, prehensile upper lip used to gather food, used to eat, and for social interaction and communication. The upper lip pad is split into left and right sides, which can move independently. The lips use 7 muscles to manipulate and tear plants. Manatees have shorter snouts than their fellow Sirenians, the dugongs, and their ears are large internally, but the external openings are small, and they are located 4 inches behind each eye. Manatees have 4 rows of teeth on the sides of their mouth, and there are 6 to 8 high-crowned, open-rooted molars located along each side of the upper jaw and lower jaw, giving a total of 24 to 38 rough, textured teeth. Eating gritty vegetation abrades the teeth, particularly the enamel crown. However, Research indicates that the enamel structure in manatee molars is weak. To compensate for this, manatee teeth are continually replaced throughout their lives, with new teeth growing at the rear as older teeth fall out at the front of their mouths, like a conveyor belt of teeth. The rate at which the teeth migrate forward depends on how quickly the anterior teeth abrade. Some studies indicate that the rate is about 1 centimeter per month, although other studies indicate 1/10 of a centimeter per month. A manatee's tail is paddle-shaped and is the clearest visible difference between manatees and dugongs. A dugong tail is fluked, similar in shape to that of a whale's tail. And manatees have 2 flippers near the front of their bodies. And the female manatee has 2 teats, one under each flipper, a characteristic that was used to make early links between the manatee and the elephant. The manatee is unusual among mammals in having just 6 cervical vertebrae, a number that may be due to mutations in the homeotic genes, other than the 2-toed and 3-toed sloths. Manatees simply cannot turn their head sideways, and as a result, they need to turn their whole body in order to look back. Like horses, the manatee has a simple stomach, but a large cecum, in which it can digest tough plant matter. Generally, the intestines are about 45 meters, which is unusually long for an animal the manatee's size. Manatees are herbivores, and they eat over 60 different freshwater and saltwater plants. Some examples of their favorite freshwater foods are the floating hyacinth, pickerel weed, alligator weed, water lettuce, hydrilla, water celery, musk grass, and mangrove leaves. Their favorite saltwater plants are sea grasses, shoal grass, manatee grass, turtle grass, widgeon grass, sea clover, and marine algae. Using their divided upper lip, an adult manatee will commonly eat up to 10 to 15% of their body weight per day, about 150 pounds. Consuming such an amount requires the manatee to graze for up to 7 hours a day. To be able to cope with the high levels of cellulose in their plant-based diet, manatees utilize hind gut fermentation to help with the digestion process. Manatees use their flippers to sort of walk along the bottom whilst they dig for plants and roots in the substrate. When plants are detected, the flippers are used to scoop the vegetation toward the manatee's lips. Manatees use their prehensile lips and front flippers to move the plants into their mouth. And remember, the manatee does not have front teeth. However, behind the lips, on the roof of the mouth, there are dense ridged pads. And these ridges and the manatee's lower jaw tear through ingested plant material. Manatees make their way up and down various coastlines in search of food and warm waters. They inhabit the shallow, marshy coastal areas and rivers of the Caribbean Sea, the Gulf of Mexico, the Amazon basin, and waters in West Africa. West Indian manatees prefer warmer temperatures and are known to congregate in shallow waters. They frequently migrate through brackish water estuaries to freshwater springs. They cannot survive below 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Their natural source of warmth during winter is warm, spring-fed waters. The coast of the state of Georgia is usually the northernmost range of the West Indian manatees because their low metabolic rate does not protect them in cold water. Prolonged exposure to water below 68 degrees Fahrenheit can cause cold stress syndrome and death. Florida manatees can move freely between freshwater and saltwater. Manatees have been seen as far north as Cape Cod in 1995 and again in 2006. One was seen in New York City and Rhode Island's Narragansett Bay, probably saying that wrong. A manatee was spotted in the Wolf River Harbor near the Mississippi River in downtown Memphis in 2006 and was later found dead 10 miles downriver in McKellar Lake. Another manatee was found dead on a New Jersey beach in February 2020, which is considered especially unusual given the time of the year. At the time of the manatee's discovery, the water temperature in the area was below 43.7 degrees Fahrenheit. The West Indian manatee migrates into Florida rivers, such as the Crystal, the Homosassa, and the Chassahowitzka rivers, whose head springs are 72 degrees Fahrenheit all year. Between November and March each year, about 600 West Indian manatees gather in the rivers in Citrus County, Florida, such as the Crystal River National Wildlife Refuge. In winter, manatees often gather near the warm water outflows of power plants along the Florida coast, instead of migrating south as they once did. Some conservationists are concerned that these manatees have become too reliant on these artificially warmed areas. Now, apart from mothers with their young or males following a receptive female, manatees are generally solitary animals. They may sometimes be seen swimming in pairs and, on rare occasions, come together as a group called an aggregation. An aggregation is usually an informal meeting where they enjoy a large supply of food and a warm area of water. An aggregation may also be a mating herd which has one female and up to 5 males. Manatees spend approximately 50% of the day sleeping submerged, surfacing for air regularly at intervals of less than 20 minutes. They can replace 90% of air in their lungs in a single breath. Humans only replace about 10%. The remainder of their time is mostly spent grazing in shallow waters at depths of 3 to 6 feet. Manatees are capable of understanding discrimination tasks and show signs of complex associative learning. They also have a good long-term memory, and their abilities are similar to dolphins and pinnipeds in acoustic and visual studies. Pinnipeds are seals. Manatees emit a wide range of sounds used in communication, especially between cows and their calves. They can communicate in squeals and squeaks. Manatees can communicate when they're afraid or angry during socialization, and also to find each other. Adult manatees communicate to maintain contact and also while mating. Manatees reach sexual maturity by the age of 5 years. They typically breed once every 2 years, although females may have more than one estrus cycle per year. During the mating season, a female is called a cow, and the males that follow her are known as bulls. Once she picks a male, their mating ritual lasts about 30 seconds. Once mating is over, the male leaves and never takes part in raising the calf. Generally, only a single calf is born, and gestation lasts about 12 months, and the birth takes place underwater. To wean the calf takes another 12 to 18 months. Female manatees make good mothers. A newborn manatee calf grows capable enough to swim on its own just an hour after birth, but the mother manatee usually helps the calves to reach the surface so that they can take their first breath. Although they take up to 18 months to wean, they may stay with their mother for up to 4 years. This is a long time compared to some other marine mammals such as seals, who only stay with their young for a few days, or a sea otter, which only stays with its pup for about 8 months. And now for some fun facts. The oldest manatee in captivity was named Snooty, who lived at the South Florida Museum's Parker Manatee Aquarium in Bradenton, Florida. He was born at the Miami Aquarium and Tackle Company on July 21st, 1948. Snooty was one of the first recorded captive manatee births. He was raised entirely in captivity. Snooty was never released into the wild, and as such, he was the only manatee in the aquarium, and one of only a few captive manatees in the United States who was allowed to interact with human handlers. That made him uniquely suitable for manatee research and education. Snooty died suddenly 2 days after his 69th birthday, on July 23rd, 2017. He was found in an underwater area only used to access plumbing for the exhibit life support system. The South Florida Museum's initial press release stated, "Early indications are that an access panel door that is normally bolted shut had somehow been knocked loose, and Snooty was able to swim in." Oh, poor Snooty. The word manatee is thought to come from the Carib word meaning a woman's breast or udder. It may also be from the Latin for having hands, which is reference to the animal's flippers. And this fact made me laugh. But these cow-like creatures are thought to have inspired Mermaid Legends. During his first journey to the Americas, Christopher Columbus caught a glimpse of 3 mermaids, writing that they are not so beautiful as they are said to be, for their faces had some masculine traits. Well, I think they may have been drinking too much seawater and had too much sunshine. Now, because they are slow-moving animals most of the time, algae and barnacles can often be found on the backs of manatees. Well, maybe they should be called sea sloths. I think that's more fitting, maybe. And lastly, an important fact is that because their diet is so heavy in sea vegetation, it's a large part of why manatees are such good indicators of an ecosystem's health. When manatees are thriving, it means that their immediate environment is flourishing with life. In relation to the threat posed by humans, predators do not present a significant threat to manatees. When they are threatened, the manatee's response is to dive as deeply as it can, suggesting that threats have most frequently come from land dwellers, such as humans, rather than from other water-dwelling creatures, such as caimans or sharks. Natural causes of death include adverse temperatures, predation by crocodiles on the young, and diseases. Another cause of manatee deaths are red tides, a term used for the proliferation or blooms of the microscopic marine algae Carenia brevis. This dinoflagellate produces brevotoxins that can have dangerous effects on the central nervous system of animals. Manatees can also be crushed and isolated in water control structures like navigation locks and floodgates, and are occasionally killed by entanglement in fishing gear such as crab pot, float lines, box straps, and shark nets. Crab pot, float lines, box straps, box traps, and shark nets. That's kind of hard to say. While humans are allowed to swim with manatees in one area of Florida, there have been numerous charges of people harassing and disturbing the manatees. Population viability studies conducted in 1997 found that decreasing adult survival and eventual extinction were a probable future outcome for Florida manatees unless they got more protection. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service proposed downgrading the manatee's status from endangered to threatened in January 2016, after more than 40 years of the manatees being classified as endangered. So far this year, 358 manatee deaths have been reported. The same time last year, only 122 deaths were reported. At this time, the official causes of death are not fully known, but many believe that because their status was changed, boaters felt that they could increase speed in the waters, and this has caused an increase in manatee deaths. The following information may be upsetting to hear, but I promise I've left out the most gruesome details of injuries and death that I learned about while researching for this video. Most manatee deaths are usually due to human-related issues such as habitat destruction and human objects. Their slow-moving, curious nature has led to violent collisions with propeller-driven boats and ships, leading frequently to maiming, disfigurement, and even death. As a result, a large proportion of manatees exhibit spiral-cutting propeller scars on their backs, usually caused by larger vessels that do not have skegs in front of the propellers like the smaller outboard and inboard-outboard recreational boats have. They are now even identified by humans based on their scar patterns. Some manatees have been found with over 50 scars on them from propeller blades. Often, the lacerations lead to infections which can prove fatal. Internal injuries stemming from being trapped between holes and docks and impacts have also been fatal. Many manatees have been cut in two by large vessels like ships and tugboats. And when calves become injured, if they survive, many are left disfigured and disabled and must adapt in order to survive. Recent testing shows that manatees may be able to hear speedboats and other watercraft approaching due to the frequency the boat makes. However, a manatee may not be able to hear the approaching boats when they are performing day-to-day activities or distractions. The manatee has a tested frequency range of 8 to 32 kilohertz. Manatees hear on a higher frequency than would be expected for such large marine mammals. Many large boats emit very low frequencies, which confuse the manatee and explain their lack of awareness around boats. The Lloyd's mirror effect results in low-frequency propeller sounds not being discernible near the surface, where most accidents occur. Research indicates that when a boat has a higher frequency, the manatees rapidly swim away from danger. It seems that each year, more and more manatees are killed by human actions. There are a few ways that you can help manatees. You can begin by not using as much or no chemical fertilizers in your yard or garden. You can pick up pet waste, do some poop scooping. Anything that ends up in the ground soil and washes into waterways can pollute the coastlines where manatees live. Look for the circular swim patterns they make in the water, and wearing polarized lenses can also help you spot manatees and avoid them. You can symbolically adopt one through the non-profit organization Save the Manatee. I'll post their link in the description. You could even start your own manatee awareness group. And finally, the best way that you can help them is by living a vegan lifestyle. Since animal agriculture and the fishing industry cause so much destruction and pollution to our oceans, it makes sense that this would help them. And if we can get less boats in the water, then that means less chances of accidents involving manatees. I'll leave links in the description to help you make this lifestyle change. Manatees are such beautiful, gentle animals, and so important to our ecosystems. It would be a real shame if we lost this species due to negligence and apathy. We can each make changes in our lives to help give these wonderful animals a fighting chance. That's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed learning about manatees. Till next time.